That evening, she finally asked. I was sitting on the edge of the bed, scrolling through my phone, tending to be interested in some mindless article about productivity hacks. My wife Hannah walked out of the bathroom, damp hair wrapped in a towel, her face softer than I'd seen it in days. She stood there for a moment, almost hesitant, before she broke the silence. "Why haven't you touched me all week?" she said quietly. I looked up. Her eyes searched mine for something. Reassurance. Guilt, maybe even a fight, but all I gave her was a steady stare and a slow breath. "I'm preparing for life as a bachelor," I said. The words landed heavy, like a dropped plate that didn't shatter, but cracked right down the middle. Yeah. Her expression flickered, confusion first, then a flash of anger, then something closer to panic. "What the hell does that mean?" she asked, voice sharper now. I didn't answer right away. I set my phone on the nightstand, leaned back, and stared at the ceiling fan as it hummed its lazy circles. I wanted her to sit in the silence, to feel what I'd been feeling all week. That dull, gnawing emptiness that creeps in when the person you trust most starts feeling like a stranger in your own house. Truth was, I hadn't planned to say it like that. It wasn't some rehearsed line I'd been practicing in the mirror. It just slipped out raw and unpolished because that's exactly what I'd been doing. Getting used to the idea that this marriage wasn't what I thought it was before we peel back the layers of this betrayal and my quiet path to freedom. If you've ever felt the slow burn of suspicion in a relationship, hit that like button now. It's quick and helps us share more stories like this. Subscribe to, and let's dive into how one alert changed everything. 7 days earlier, I'd stumbled across the kind of truth that doesn't scream, it whispers, and it doesn't hit you all at once. It drips into your brain slow and steady until you can't think about anything else. It started with a phone, not hers, mine. Oh. Or at least the one we shared on the same account. I'd gotten an alert about data usage spiking, something I usually ignored. But that night, curiosity bit down. I opened the account log. I saw late-night activity that wasn't mine. Messages, video calls, all tagged to her number. Midnight, 2 a.m., 4 in the morning. I didn't confront her. Instead, I just watched. Observed like I'd been drafted into some cruel reality show where the prize was either the truth or complete heartbreak. Every morning after, I'd wake up next to her, pretending nothing was wrong. I'd kiss her cheek before work, listen to her stories about meetings and errands, nod along like the devoted husband she thought I still was. And every night when she slipped out of bed to grab some water or check emails, I'd see the glow of her phone screen in the hallway. Hear the muffled laughter, the sighs. So when she asked why I hadn't touched her in a week, the answer was simple, because touching her felt like lying. She didn't know I knew. Not yet. And maybe that was cruel of me to sit there letting her think I was just distant or tired or stressed, but I needed that time, needed the distance, the quiet, the chance to see what life felt like without her in my arms. And you know what? It wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. Lonely? Sure. Cold? Yeah, but it was also clarifying. So, I let the words out that night. I'm preparing for life as a bachelor. And the look on her face told me she had no idea, just how close we already were to living separate lives. Her reaction was almost comical in a way, though there wasn't a damn thing funny about it. "What the hell are you talking about? A bachelor?" Hannah snapped, tossing the towel from her head onto the chair. Her hair, damp and tangled, clung to her shoulders. "Are you seriously telling me you want a divorce? Out of nowhere because you've been moody?" I laughed, but it wasn't the warm kind of laugh she used to love hearing. It was the bitter, sharp-edged kind that cuts both ways. "Out of nowhere, Hannah. Nothing about this is out of nowhere." That stopped her. She froze, arms wrapped around herself like she'd suddenly realized the temperature had dropped 10. The room. I stood and paced to the dresser, pulling out a clean t-shirt, not because I needed it, but because my hands needed something to do besides shaking. You think I haven't noticed? The late-night calls, the sudden bursts of secrecy, the way you guard your phone like it's a damn vault. Her lips parted, a flicker of fear, or was it calculation, crossed her face. She recovered quickly, though, shaking her head. "I thought I'm sane. I can't believe you're accusing me of..." "Don't," I cut in, voice steady but low. "Don't you dare gaslight me." The room was quiet except for the hum of the ceiling fan and my heartbeat in my ears. The thing is, I hadn't even told her the half of it. I'd already seen the logs, already known the numbers she texted late into. The night weren't work-related. I'd even run one through a reverse lookup. A name popped up, a man I didn't know but who suddenly had a place in my marriage, whether I liked it or not. And here she was, standing 10 feet away, trying to convince me that I was imagining things. "You've been distant," she said finally, her tone softening, switching strategies. "And maybe I've been on my phone more, but that's work stress. You've been cold to me, Mark. Haven't you noticed? We haven't connected in weeks, months even." I turned, t-shirt still in my hands, and looked at her like she was a stranger who had wandered into my house. "You're right, we haven't connected. And I wonder why that is." Her eyes glistened like tears were on standby, ready to roll out at the perfect dramatic moment. The old me, the husband who wanted peace more than truth, would have melted at that look. But now I saw it as what it was, a tactic. The silence stretched. I could almost hear the unspoken words buzzing between us. She wanted me to cave, to doubt myself, to swallow the unease like I'd done so many times before, but I was done choking on things I couldn't digest. So I walked past her out into the hallway. "Where are you going?" she called after me, voice cracking. "Guest room," I said over my shoulder. Since I'm apparently paranoid, I figure it's best to start practicing bachelor life sooner rather than later. Didn't wait for her reply that night, lying on the stiff mattress of the guest bed, staring at the faint glow of the street lamp through the blinds, I realized something terrifying. I wasn't heartbroken, not yet. What I felt was heavier, stranger, like I was mourning someone who was still alive but already gone. And in that stillness, one thought looped over and over. She thought I was bluffing. She was about to learn how serious I really was. The guest bed was terrible, springs pressed into my back. The sheets smelled like dust, and the pillow was flat as cardboard. But for the first time in a long while, I actually slept. No tossing, no fake cuddles, no pretending that everything was fine. Just silence, heavy and honest. When I came downstairs the next morning, Hannah was already in the kitchen, her hair pulled back, her face scrubbed clean like she was trying to hit the reset button on her image. She had coffee brewing and even set a mug at my spot at the table. "Morning," she said softly, almost timid. "Morning." I sat, but I didn't touch the mug. She hovered for a moment, then slid into the chair across from me. "About last night, I think we both said things we didn't mean." I raised an eyebrow. I meant every word. Her face tightened. "Mark, come on. You're acting like I've done something unforgivable." I leaned back, folding my arms, "Didn't you?" That landed. She flinched just slightly, but enough for me to notice. It was the kind of micro-expression you can't fake. It's the kind that leaks through before your brain can slap on the mask. "Who is he?" I asked. She blinked. "What? You heard me? Who is he?" Her hands clenched around her coffee mug. "There's no one. You're inventing stories." I chuckled low and humorless. "If I'm inventing them, why did they line up so neatly with your late-night calls, your sudden girls' nights, your new habit of showering before bed instead of in the morning? You never did that before? You think I don't notice these things?" Lips parted like she wanted to argue, but nothing came out. Silence. That silence was louder than any confession. I pushed my chair back and stood. "You know what the cruelest part is, Hannah? You haven't even given me the dignity of the truth. You're letting me piece it together like some bad detective in my own house." She followed me as I walked toward the door. "Where are you going?" "Work at 7:30 in the morning." "Better than sitting here listening to you rehearse excuses." Her voice cracked. "Mark, please, can't we just talk about this without you accusing me?" I paused at the doorway, hand on the knob. Talking requires honesty. "Until you're ready to try that, we don't have much to say." I left her standing there barefoot on the tile, coffee cooling in her hands. All day at work, I hammered nails into cedar boards, the smell of sawdust sharp in the air, but my mind wasn't on the job. It was on her phone, on that number, on the faint but undeniable tremor in her voice when I asked who he was. By lunchtime, my stomach was in knots, not from hunger, but from the weight of knowing. So during break, I pulled out my own phone and looked at the number again. I copied it, pasted it into a search bar, and waited. The name popped up instantly. A man, not a coworker, not a cousin, not some random business contact. I didn't recognize the face, but the realization hit like a punch to the ribs. He wasn't some ghost. He was real, and my wife had let him into our lives, into her time, into her secrets. That evening when I came home, Hannah tried to act normal. Music playing in the oven, music playing low in the background. I could see it all for what it was: theater. She was running a script, hoping I'd forget my lines and slip back into the role of the clueless, forgiving husband. But I wasn't her audience anymore. I was the critic, and the cracks in her performance were starting to show. The smell of roasted chicken used to mean comfort. It used to mean home. Like that night, though, all it smelled like was desperation. Anna moved around the kitchen with forced ease, humming some tune off key, setting plates on the table like she was hosting a dinner party neither of us wanted to attend. She even opened a bottle of wine, my favorite Cabernet, the one we usually save for anniversaries. "Sit," she said softly, almost pleading. I sat, but the weight of her performance pressed against me harder than the chair. She carved the chicken, placed a piece on my plate, and smiled like she hadn't been crying earlier. I thought we could reset. No fighting, no accusations, just dinner. Dinner, I repeated, swirling the wine in my glass. For a few minutes, she kept the small talk alive, asked about work, nodded at my short answers, adored, tried to slip into the rhythm we used to have, but her eyes darted toward her phone on the counter every few seconds. Every buzz of a notification made her flinch. Finally, I set my fork down. "No, Hannah, it's not the affair that kills me." Her hand froze mid-cut. "There is no, don't," I said flatly. "We're past denial. What kills me isn't that you're talking to someone else. It's that you're sitting here feeding me chicken, pouring me wine, and pretending like I don't already know." Her lip trembled. She tried to hold my gaze, but her eyes dropped to the table. I leaned forward. "Do you love him?" Her head snapped up, eyes wide. "What? No, Mark. No, it's not like that." "Then what is it?" I demanded, voice rising for the first time. "Do you get from him that you've stopped wanting from me?" She opened her mouth, then shut it, struggling for words. "It was just attention," she whispered finally. "He listened. He made me feel noticed." I sat back, the anger simmering. Noticed. The 20 years I've spent working my hands raw, keeping this house standing, making sure you had everything you needed, that didn't count as noticing. Tears filled her eyes. "It's not the same." "You're damn right it's not the same," I muttered. The room went quiet. The only sound, the low hum of the refrigerator. I took a long drink of wine, not because I wanted it, but because I needed something to keep me from shouting. Finally I said, "What's his name?" Throat worked as she swallowed. She whispered it, like speaking it too loudly would make it more real. I nodded slowly. That's all I needed. Her tears spilled over then, dripping onto her plate. "Mark, please. It wasn't supposed to go this far. I just save it," I said, standing. "You wanted attention, and you got it, but you forgot something." She looked up desperate. "What? You forgot that I noticed too?" I walked out, leaving her at the table with her cooling dinner and her cooling excuses that night. Back in the guest room, I pulled out my phone and searched the man's name. His face appeared again, clearer this time. Profile pictures, tagged photos, check-ins at restaurants and bars. He wasn't some ghost. He was flesh and blood, and now I had him. I wasn't sure yet what I was going to do with the information. One thing was certain: he'd stepped into my marriage uninvited, and I was about to return the favor. The next morning, Hannah acted like the night before hadn't happened. She moved around the kitchen in her robe, hair pulled back, humming again. Like wiping her memory clean would wipe mine too. She poured me coffee without asking, slid the mug across the counter, and smiled weakly. I didn't touch it. I pulled out my phone, tapped the screen, and set it face up on the counter. Her eyes flicked down to it, then froze. Display was his picture, the man whose name she'd whispered through tears the night before. Her face drained of color. "Mark," I raised an eyebrow. "Recognize him." She swallowed hard. "Please don't. What? Acknowledge the truth? Pretend I don't know what's been happening?" I leaned in close. "Do you think I'm just some dumb husband?" Too busy swinging a hammer to notice when his wife checks out of the marriage. Her eyes filled, but I was past tears, past sympathy. I pocketed the phone, grabbed my keys, and walked out without another word. I didn't go to work. Instead, I parked in a lot 2 blocks from where the guy lived. It wasn't hard to find. His address was public, tied to his business license. He was some kind of sales rep, judging by the endless stream of posts about conferences and networking. Events' building was a bland brick apartment complex. The kind of place you rent when you want to look successful without actually being it. I sat there in my truck, engine off, watching the entrance. At 8:20 a.m. he walked out, Mid-30s pressed shirt, loafers polished enough to blind someone in the sun. He carried himself like a man who thought the world owed him something. And this was the guy Hannah thought was worth risking our marriage for. He didn't notice me. Why would he? To him I was invisible, just the faceless husband in the background of the life he thought he was stealing. But as I watched him climb into his shiny car, a strange calm settled over me. I didn't feel rage, not the kind that makes you slam fists or scream into the steering wheel. I felt something colder, focused, because men like him only win when the husband plays the fool. And I had no intention of playing fool anymore that evening. When I walked back into the house, Hannah was waiting in the living room, curled up on the couch with a blanket draped over her legs like some fragile victim. "You didn't go to work today," she said carefully. "Nope." Her hands tightened around the blanket. "Where were you?" "Out." "Out where?" I met her eyes and held them, getting used to bachelor life. "Remember?" Her face crumpled. "Mark, please don't do this. We can fix this. It wasn't what? Real? Serious? What do you want me to believe, Hannah? This was just a game." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "I made a mistake. That's all it was. A mistake." I let the silence stretch until it was unbearable. Then I said, "Mistakes are forgetting to pay. The power bill, leaving the oven on, sleeping with someone else, that's a choice." I sobbed quietly, face buried in her hands. And for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel broken by it. I felt free because her tears weren't my burden anymore. Later that night, as I lay awake in the guest room staring at the ceiling, I made up my mind. She thought this was just going to be swept under the rug. She was wrong. Tomorrow, I wasn't just going to watch him from a distance. I was going to make sure he knew exactly whose life he'd stepped into. I found him at lunch. Sales guys are creatures of habit. You can set your watch by their routines. He ate at the same downtown cafe every Wednesday, ordered the same salad, with extra chicken. Always on his phone loud enough for strangers to overhear how important he thought he was. I walked in and spotted him immediately. Hair gelled, shirt starched, Rolex flashing every time he waved his hand around like punctuation. I ordered a coffee I didn't want, sat 2 tables over and waited. He didn't notice me at first. Why would he? To him I was just another face in the crowd. But when he looked up, when our eyes finally met, I saw it, that flicker of recognition. He knew who I was. He froze mid-sentence, fork hovering halfway to his mouth. Then slowly he set it down, leaned forward on my elbows, voice low but steady. "You're him." His jaw tightened. "I don't know what you're talking about." I smiled coldly. "You don't have to. I already know." He glanced around, scanning the cafe like he was calculating witnesses. Classic guys like him thrive in the shadows, but wilt under fluorescent lights. "Look," he said finally, voice softer now. "This isn't what you think." I chuckled. "It's exactly what I think." Silence stretched between us, heavy as a storm cloud. Finally, he cleared his throat. "She told me you two were unhappy, that you were basically done." My blood burned, but my voice stayed calm. "Funny, she never told me that." His eyes darted back to his plate. "I didn't mean to cause trouble. Then why did you?" He had no answer. Just the pathetic shuffle of a man who thought he was smooth until reality walked in wearing a wedding ring. I stood, tossed a few bills on the table to cover his half-eaten salad, and leaned down. Close enough for only him to hear. "You don't call her. You don't text her. You don't even think about her, because if you do, I'll make sure your boss, your clients, and every woman you've ever sweet-talked knows exactly what kind of man you are." His face went pale, straightened up, grabbed my untouched coffee, and walked out without looking back. That night, Hannah was waiting when I came home. She must have been pacing for hours, judging by the raw edge in her voice. "Where were you out?" "Don't do that," she snapped. "Don't shut me out like this. I told you I made a mistake." I dropped my keys on the counter. "A mistake hasn't end. Yours was ongoing, and today I ended it." Her face blanched. "What do you mean?" "I mean I talked to him and I made sure he understood." Her eyes widened in horror. "You didn't, Mark. What did you do? Relax. He's still breathing, but he knows the score now. He knows I'm not some clueless fool sitting at home waiting for scraps." She sank into a chair, burying her face in her hands. "Oh my God." I stared at her, waiting for anger, for denial, for some fight. Indeed, but what came out of her instead was worse. "He'll hate me now," she whispered. Not I'm sorry, not I love you, not can we fix this. Just that. And in that moment, something inside me snapped because it wasn't me she was worried about losing. It was him. That night, lying in the guest bed again, I knew the truth, with a clarity so sharp it almost felt peaceful. Hannah had already chosen. She just hadn't realized I'd chosen to. The next morning, I didn't wait for Hannah to ask where I was going. I packed a bag, just the essentials, jeans, shirts, my tools, the few things I own that felt truly mine. She sat at the kitchen table, pale and silent, watching every move like I was slowly erasing her life with each folded t-shirt. You're leaving, she said finally, her voice brittle. I'm preparing, I corrected. For what? For life as a bachelor, her face twisted. You don't mean that, you're just angry, we can work this out. I zipped the duffel bag and slung it over my shoulder. I'm not angry, Hannah. That's the problem. I should be yelling, throwing things, demanding answers. But I'm calm. Too calm. And you know what that tells me? That I've already let go. She flinched like the words were sharper than any scream. At work, I threw myself into the job, swinging a hammer, cutting boards, running measurements. It was the closest thing to therapy I had. But even as sweat soaked through my shirt, my thoughts spun. Divorce lawyers, property splits, what it meant to unravel 20 years of a shared life. That night, I stayed late at the shop, pretending it was about finishing a project, when really, I just couldn't stand to go home. When I finally walked through the door, Hannah was waiting in the living room, eyes red, mascara smudged. You can't just give up, she said, voice breaking, after everything we've built. I dropped my bag by the stairs. I'm not the one who gave up, Hannah. I was here. I was working. I was loving you the best way I knew how. You're the one who went looking somewhere else. She shook her head, tears streaking down her face. I never meant to fall into it. I didn't plan for any of this. Affairs don't just happen, I shot back. You don't trip and fall into someone else's bed. You've made choices, and now you're dealing with the consequences. Her sobs filled the room. Once that sound would have broken me. Now it just felt like static, loud, distracting, but meaningless. You don't understand, she cried. He doesn't matter. Not like you. You're my husband, you're my life. It's a funny way of showing it. I spent that night on the guest bed again, staring at the ceiling, the duffel bag packed and ready on the floor. I thought about calling a lawyer, thought about moving into an apartment across town. I even thought about what bachelorhood at my age would look like. Weekends fishing with buddies, be fixing up the old truck I'd been neglecting. To enjoy the silence instead of fearing it. But in the middle of those thoughts, something else crept in. Sadness, not for her, for me. For the man who'd wasted years proving his worth to someone who was always looking over his shoulder for something shinier. I turned over, pulled the blanket tighter, and made myself a promise. Tomorrow I'd stop preparing. Tomorrow I'd start acting. When I came downstairs the next morning, Hannah was waiting again, sitting at the table with a stack of papers in front of her, not divorce papers, marriage counseling brochures. She pushed them toward me with trembling hands. Please, she whispered, just try one session. If you still want to leave after that, I won't fight you. I looked at the glossy pamphlets, the smiling couples holding hands like they hadn't seen betrayal up close, and I almost laughed. Counseling doesn't work on ghosts, I said, brushing past her, because that's all she was to me now. I ghost. Of the woman I married, and I was done living in a haunted house, I met with a lawyer that Friday. His office smelled like leather and old books, the kind of place where endings get written up in neat legal paragraphs. He asked the usual questions: assets, kids, none, length of marriage, income. I answered each one calmly, like I was filling out paperwork for a job I didn't really want but knew I had to take. When he asked if reconciliation was an option, I just shook my head. She already reconciled with someone else, I said flatly. He didn't press further. Men in his line of work know when a client has already buried the marriage in their heart. When I came home that night, Hannah was waiting again. She dressed up this time, makeup done, hair styled. Like maybe if she looked like the woman I'd fallen in love with, she could undo what she'd done. Where were you? She asked softly. Lawyer's office. The color drained from her face. She staggered back a step as if the words themselves had shoved her. You didn't. I did. And tears welled instantly. Mark, no, please, we can fix this. I'll block his number. I'll delete everything. We can start over. I set my keys on the counter, leaned against it, and studied her. You don't get it, do you? This isn't about him. It's about you, about the choices you made long before I ever knew his name. She shook her head violently. No, it's not too late. I can prove it to you. I'll go to counseling. I cut her off. Counseling can't resurrect trust. And trust is already dead. She covered her face with her hands, sobbing into them, shoulders shaking. I didn't move to comfort her. Not this time. The next morning I packed the truck. Just the essentials again. Only this time it wasn't practice. My clothes, my tools, my old recliner I'd rescued from the garage where she'd banished it years ago. She stood in the doorway, clutching her robe tight around her like it could hold her life together. Where will you go? She whispered. Doesn't matter anywhere but here. I never stopped loving you. I paused, one hand on the tailgate. You might have loved me, Hannah, but you didn't respect me. And without respect, love's just noise. Her sobs followed me as I climbed into the truck, turned the key, pulled out of the driveway. The road stretched ahead, long and empty, the morning sun spilling across the asphalt. For the first time in weeks, maybe months, I felt something. I hadn't expected peace, not joy, not relief. Just a quiet kind of peace that comes from finally stopping the fight you were never meant to win. I didn't know what bachelor life would look like. Maybe it would be lonely at first. Maybe it would hurt in ways I couldn't yet imagine. But it would be mine. Honest. No secrets, no games, no glowing phone screens at midnight. Windows down, wind cutting through the cab, I realized something simple. Sometimes the bravest thing a man can do isn't fighting to hold on, it's knowing when to let go. And I had finally, mercifully let go. If this husband's journey from betrayal to bold freedom resonated quiet strength over chaos, drop a comment. What's your let go story? Like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more empowering tales.